Hi guys, and welcome back to my Turkey backpacking recap. Let's have a look at what you need to know before booking a trip to Turkey. I will get into our itinerary, the cost breakdown, and of course the things we did or did not like. But let's start with figuring out when the best time is to go. It is best to avoid the winter if you don't want to be too cold. Especially in Istanbul and also Cappadocia, it can get quite cold during the winter months. So I would suggest that you plan your trip from April onward. We went at the start of April and the temperatures were fine. Aside from in Cappadocia, it still got quite cold in the morning. It is definitely a different climate out in the middle of the country. And we didn't have the best weather in Cappadocia either. So April maybe is still a bit of the gray zone. Also, Ramadan is something to take into account. Our trip was just at the end of Ramadan, which meant that the week after Ramadan, all the Turkish people had time off and they would be traveling too, which made all the sites so much more busy. It definitely made the experience less enjoyable, but going forward the next few years, Ramadan will fall earlier and earlier in the year, so eventually it'll be in the winter anyway, so you won't have to take it into account too much. But yeah, definitely have a look at the national holidays and try to avoid them if you want to avoid the crowds. To enter Turkey, we arrived in Istanbul and we did need an international passport, so definitely make sure that you still have this even when you plan on only visiting the European side of Istanbul. I heard that for some of the Turkish Riviera, European people can just arrive there and just visit on their national ID, but definitely check what the rules are for your nationality. Coming from Europe, we did not need a visa or we did not need to fill out any documents in advance. What I did to make things easier was download an eSIM before leaving, so that when I arrived, as soon as the plane hit the ground, I already had data and I could already arrange an Uber, etc. But you can definitely also get a SIM card once you arrive in the airport. However, this eSIM wasn't too expensive at all, and it just took away a lot of the hassle. And it also means that you can leave your national or your own SIM card in your phone so you don't lose it. And if you needed to verify any apps or anything, you can still use it. So it's just very convenient to have the eSIM. Once you know when to go, let's have a look at where to go and how to get there. We arrived in Istanbul around 11 a.m. We got an Uber for the 1-hour drive that is still left from the airport to the city center. The airport is quite far out, and for the 1-hour ride, we paid 31 euros, which we could split between the two of us. One thing to note with the Uber prices in Istanbul is that they are not fixed. So before you get in the car or before you start driving, ask the driver what his exact price will be, because we did get scammed eventually. For a very short ride, we were charged 14 euros within Istanbul itself, which was not cool at all. But yeah, there's not much you can do about it since the price on there is not fixed. So check this with your driver before setting off. When it comes to Istanbul, you need to spend at least 2 days. I've made a vlog about it. We definitely did not get to see all that we wanted to see, and it's mainly because the visits that we did do were so intense. We spent 3 hours in Topkapi Palace. We spent so much time running around the city, and we got tired. And we could have probably done more in the afternoon, but we were just so done at this point. So you just need more time so that it's still enjoyable. You can take your time. You don't have to rush. So if you can spend at least 3 days, I think that would be much better. But we didn't have that kind of time. To get around the city, because the city is huge, you will need the Istanbul public transportation card. This was a bit more expensive than I expected. It's about 10 euros for a whole day, but it takes you pretty much anywhere around the city with mostly the trams, but also the buses. You could even get it at the airport and come to the city center by bus, but it'll take you quite a bit longer. But you will definitely need it to get around and save a lot of money on Ubers. After the 1.5 days that we spent in Istanbul, we took the night bus to Cappadocia. These night buses you can book on Flixbus or Camil Koç. You could just go to the bus station station itself and book the seats directly. But for example, for Istanbul, there are a few different bus stations and they are quite a bit out of the city center. Make sure that when you book online that you select the one that is the closest. And this one was absolutely huge. So definitely make sure that, especially in Istanbul, you arrive with plenty of time at the bus station to find the right place to be. I've inserted a little map in the vlog of Cappadocia of where we had to take the bus. But if you book online through Flixbus, you will get on the Pamukkale buses. On the bus itself, you will get a snack, you will get a drink, and even through the booking system, you can see if the places that are already occupied, if they are occupied by women or men. So if you do need to sit next to someone as a woman, you could choose a woman instead of a man. It'll all depend on how much you book in advance. Us obviously going in the Easter holidays of Europe, coming together with the Ramadan holidays of Turkey, it was so busy, so we definitely needed to book most of our buses about a week in advance to get a good spot or even a good time, because the best times, especially for example for Cappadocia, were sold out at least a week before going. So definitely take this into account. When you get to Cappadocia, it is essential that you book at least 2 nights. Why? Well, if you're going to Cappadocia, the chances are that you want to do the hot air balloon ride, which at the moment is very expensive. And if you want to do it, I would recommend maybe even going in the winter time, because on the off season you might get a discount. Right now, they were charging per person 260 euros, which means that they are making 5,000 euros per balloon every single day. It's insane, but all the companies have kind of collectively decided on this price. I was very upset about the balloon price, okay? I did get a good deal, but eventually it got cancelled, and that is why you need at least multiple mornings, because if on the morning you want to do it, the first morning that you can, it gets cancelled. You can still postpone it to the next day, and then hopefully it won't get cancelled the second day like it did with us. So you will need at least 2 nights in Cappadocia if this hot air balloon is really important to you. Other than that, around Cappadocia, it is super easy to take the local bus around. It is super cheap and you will save so much money that otherwise you would be spending on taking one of the tours. They are quite pricey, but you can do it on your own just by taking the local bus. Have a look at the vlog I made to see exactly what we did and how we did it. Because even though we couldn't do the hot air balloon, we still had a blast. We then took the night bus to Denizli, and from Denizli, where we arrived at 6 a.m. in the morning, we then took a shuttle. The people of the bus itself just guided us to the shuttle, and it was really affordable as well. We got the shuttle to Pamukkale, where we arrived about half an hour later. So 6 a.m. we arrived in Pamukkale, and the whole sky was full of hot air balloons. It was so beautiful, the perfect time to arrive. And then as soon as the site opened, we went there and we had it all to ourselves. And it was just like in the Instagram pictures, but 2 hours later, it was full of other people and it just was not as enjoyable, especially knowing how much the entrance costs. You want to get there early to be able to enjoy it. Trust me. I will get into the cost of these entries and activities a bit later on because our wallets were crying. Anyway, we spent the full day in Pamukkale, spent the night there, and then early the next morning, our hostel host, he arranged a taxi for us. Well, he was the taxi pretty much. And he took us to the train station of Denizli, from where we took the train to Selçuk. We got the ticket of the train. On the train itself, we did have to move probably to the carriage that holds all the people who didn't have a pre-booked ticket, because it does say the seat on the ticket itself. But the train brought us to Selçuk in only 3 hours. We did book a night in Selçuk. Even though we would not be spending the night there, we would be taking the night bus to Fethiye. But we booked the night just so we would be able to rest in the afternoon, because we knew we would go straight to Ephesus to visit the ancient site. And then in the afternoon, since we had been doing quite some night buses, getting up very early, doing lots of intense visits, we knew that we would be in for a nap or at least some rest. So that is why we booked Anne's guest house, and this was just amazing. We arrived there around 9. They gave us the best breakfast we've had in Turkey for free. Well, actually, we probably did pay for it to have it the next day, but we would be gone already. So as soon as we arrived, we had breakfast, and they didn't even know that we weren't staying the night yet. So they were so lovely. Definitely our favorite place to stay in all of Turkey, even though we didn't stay. But anyway, so we checked in, had a lovely breakfast, and then we went to Ephesus, which you can see in the video also of Pamukkale. And then in the evening, you can take a local bus from the local bus station, which is super close to Anne's guest house, and make your way to Izmir. From Izmir, we could take the night bus to Fethiye. In Fethiye, we arrived really early, so we had another night booked there also, so that we could check right in and go to sleep before starting to explore Fethiye. So we had 2 accommodations booked for this night and a night bus. So we definitely weren't saving money, but I'm so glad we did this because it just made the experience so much more enjoyable. We had an amazing time in Fethiye. We just took the local bus around, no need to get a scooter or anything. The local buses are so good, so cheap, you just tap and go. And then from Fethiye, there are so many buses to Kaş or Antalya and to spend more time along the Turkish Riviera. Antalya definitely positively surprised me, but Kaş, they say, is very beautiful. Now that we have talked through our itinerary and how we managed to see everything in 10 days, I actually spent 12 because my best friend left right away from Antalya, but I spent some more time there and caught up with an old friend. But let's have a look at what it cost us to spend these 10 to 12 days in Turkey. I spent a total of 1,055 euros on the 12 days that I was in Turkey, which is a lot of money. And the most expensive thing, which we did not expect at all, was the entrance fees. At the start of our trip in Istanbul, we saw that there was a museum pass, but it cost 165 euros. And we thought there's no way we are going to spend this much on entrance fees, because Pamukkale, Ephesus, maybe an entrance fee in Cappadocia, and then the 2 things we wanted to see in Istanbul itself, Topkapi Palace and Hagia Sophia. Surely they can be 165 euros. But I think that's exactly how much we spent. And had we bought the museum pass, we also could have visited the Basilica Sistine in Istanbul, which now we didn't visit because of budget reasons. We could have done another visit in Cappadocia, which now we didn't do. We also don't feel like we missed out on that visit, but maybe if we had the pass, we would have made our way there and maybe we would have enjoyed the visit, you know? So if you can, get the museum pass, because Pamukkale cost us 40 euros. Ephesus, 40 euros. It's such a ripoff. It's insane. Topkapi Palace, 40 euros. Hagia Sophia, 25. Göreme Open Air Museum, 20. And then we've done some other visits and activities, of course, which also add to the total on top of this. So on activities, on average, per day, we spent 30 euros. On accommodation, on average, we spent 17 euros per day, which is relatively good, even though we took quite some night buses and that should have saved us on accommodation. Still, we stayed mostly in private rooms and we only stayed in a hostel, I think once or twice. So 17 euros still is not the end of the world. That's kind of to be expected. Since we were using a lot of transportation, of course this is going to be a chunk of your budget as well. Expect to pay between 20 to 35 euros on the night buses or the long distance buses. Eventually we spent 14 euros on average per day. When it comes to food, food was quite a bit more expensive than expected, but also we ate a lot in Istanbul. Especially, I just like to try all the local delicacies and all the specialties. So yeah, we spent 16 euros per day per person on food as well, which brings us to a total of 100 euros per day. This is definitely on the expensive side, and it is definitely more than I expected. And I would say it was worth it, maybe not for Ephesus, and like those entrance fees are just extortionate. But I do think that I've seen most of Turkey now, and we really did enjoy it. Would I go back? Probably not though. Another thing to take into account for these activities is that you will need to bring a scarf to cover up your head or your shoulders, especially when going into the mosques. It's good to just have your own with you, otherwise you need to use one that they sell there or that they kind of rent out there, and that's not the nicest. Even though Turkey felt very European, it is still nice if you cover up and if you dress appropriately. I made a separate video about what I packed for my Turkey trip, so definitely check it out if you are curious to see what I brought. Let's talk about some of my favorite things, which are these bars. This is definitely my favorite snack of Turkey. These are nut bars and they are full of nuts. Like, this is pretty much one entire pistachio. They are super affordable. They sell them in the supermarkets. They have them with hazelnuts, peanuts. These are pure pistachio. They do have some raisins and like honey and stuff. But these are so good. Such a good snack for on the go. I had a few of them in my bag at all times. I even bought them to take to Egypt with me. You will find nuts all over Turkey, and these were definitely my favorite thing. In Turkey, we felt completely safe. I heard stories about harassment, about pushy vendors. We had none of this. The Turkish people were so respectful. We actually thought something was wrong with us because no one even looked at us twice. We felt very invisible actually in Turkey. So we did not experience this like these annoying men or vendors at all. It was so super safe. Like I said, it's pretty much Europe, or even safer, because I don't feel safe walking around Brussels. Two things that we did not like as much, even though our accommodations obviously had normal toilets, the public toilets are often the Asian toilets, so just a hole in the ground that you have to squat at. That was not that fun. And then another thing was the smoking. Turkish people are smoking so much and everywhere, all the time. Even in a beautiful canyon, they'll be smoking walking through it. On a terrace, they'll be smoking all around you, even when you're eating. I don't like it. I just don't like it. But yeah, different culture, different rules, and we just had to accept it and get on with our lives. But just be aware of this. If you would like to see an interactive map with all the information about this trip, then check out my touch guide in the description below. That is it for this video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the Turkish videos, and it was so nice to be traveling with Zara again. She will be missed, but hopefully she'll be back next year in another destination. Who knows? If you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you don't want to miss any of the upcoming videos. I will be working in Greece on a sailboat all summer. I will be documenting what it's like. And after Turkey, I also visited Egypt, and I spent 24 unforgettable days in Egypt. Like, this has been one of my favorite countries that I've ever traveled to, even so long. So if you don't want to miss any of those upcoming videos, definitely subscribe, hit the notification bell, and then I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!